I should be like you, Mel.
Ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Good morning and welcome back to Cherry AM. And of course, I have got my co-host for today's show, and it is a pleasure to see you back, Sean. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Not the best day yesterday, but yeah.
Yes, you could say that. You could say that. However, we didn't finish bottom of the summer series. That prize goes to Everton, who did manage to get a draw against Manchester United. So they got a point. Everton got a point. So yeah, we're not bottom, but we'll go through the summer series in just a second, as well as a transfer rumour that has kind of developed over the weekend, both in and out as well. So let's just go through some of these comments this morning. And we have got Matt Harrison. Morning all. Can't catch much of today's show, but I'm sure it'll be a great one. Could be a very interesting week. Denny Monday interview, third shirt release. Well, that's what we think anyway. We shall see. I think it probably will be, because it's going to be, I'm sure we're going to launch it ahead of the Real Sociedad game, and the Zabarnyi saga continues. Yes, and I've had a little look, and I have found some more news about this as well. Darren Hurst, good morning, afternoon, evening. Good morning, Darren. Hope you're doing well, or good afternoon, as it should be for yourself. Hope you're doing well, mate. Great comment on last night's watch along from a West Ham fan talking about Callum Wilson. Interesting one. I'm going to pull that up actually. In just a moment, but we'll find that. Chris Hubble, morning, Matt. He said. Paul Sant has said, good morning, everyone. Darren Hurst said, I'm not too disheartened at all by early hours game. 2:45 a.m. in Perth. Lots and lots of positives to take away. Dominated position, hit woodwork 3 times. Need to increase percentage score from the corner. We'll touch on that. How many times we hit woodwork? It was ridiculous, wasn't it? Dan Short said, good morning, Craig and Ollie. Ollie isn't here at the moment, but no doubt he is watching. And well done, Manchester United, on winning the trophy. I don't really want to give any credit to the Plastic Manx, do you, Sean?
No, they don't seem. I don't want to sound sour grapes, but they still don't seem exactly like European challengers. But
no.
So they got a draw yesterday as well. So yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, our biggest fault was actually mixing it up in that second game. But I can see Andoni Iraola is using it as a trial run to actually get all the players fit. But yeah, I think that's the only thing Manchester United are going to win this season. So well done to Manchester United on winning the summer series. And, Ruben Amorim has won his first trophy. Yeah, I don't even think you get a trophy for it. So well done, Ruben. You've done well. Get ready to win nothing. VAR check potential lateness. I don't think we was that late this morning. I think we was all right. We was on time. Liam Humby said, morning all. Hope you're doing more well, Liam. Still the first owner of the new Cherries home shirt this season. There we are. I'm not going to let that one down. Well done, mate. Chris Hubble said, good morning to Craig and Ollie. Ollie is not here. Ollie will be here tomorrow, though, so you can catch him. Matt said, morning, Chris, and morning to Liam. Hi, all, said Paul from Oz. Morning, Paul. Hope you're doing well down under. And Darren, you are spot on. We must score more from corners. We'll touch up on that as well. Dan Short said, sorry, Craig and Sean. There we are.
It's all right.
It's all right. To be honest, we leave it as a surprise who's coming on for you guys. So yeah, we're gonna mix it. We're gonna mix it up. Here's a secret.
We're not sure sometimes, so
I know I'm not going to be on for Monday and Tuesday next week. So yeah, don't expect me. Everybody's going, yes, I'll tune in now. But Pollson said, I thought overall it was not a very good tournament for us. There was a few positives. I just hope it showed the recruitment team where we need to strengthen. Yes, we'll come to that as well, because there's certain area which I think we're all aware of, which we need to do something about. Chris Hubble said, morning to Craig and Sean. Darren Hurst, Matthew, I'm sure we just did not want to show our true potential and leading oppositions into a false sense of security. Yeah, I doubt that, Darren, but I think we're trying to mix things up. We're trying to do things differently, and it's just not paid off. Dan Shorts asked, who is Danny Monday? Well, watch the interview and you'll find out. It will be live tomorrow, so yeah, do take a watch of that. Nick Gillen says, good morning. Disappointing to see us lack the cutting edge once again. Yeah, most definitely. Badger and Bournemouth fan, good morning. Good morning, mate. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's very, very early hours of the morning for you. Shouldn't you be in bed? But good to have you with us, mate. Good to have you with us. Dan Short said, is the third one pink? I am wondering. Well, that's what it's rumored to be. If you've seen the video where they're all playing on the drums and the tambourine and all that, yeah, to be fair, it did make half a racket. I don't think, we're going to win Band of the Year, to be honest, AFC Bournemouth. However, yeah, that's the one we're pointing at. It looks like a packet of refreshers from close, far away. Agree with you, Dan. Last night's game was bad, losing to West Ham 2-0. Yeah, disappointing. And Liam Humby has finished with morning Matt. So, Sean, let's get into this tournament. Is it a waste of time? Or should have we learned more from playing teams like Everton, Manchester United, and West Ham United, as opposed to, say, for example, lower league teams? What's your take on it?
I think it was good and bad. There's good and bad points of it. We got a good exercise out of it. We always want to go against quality teams and that, especially the higher you are in that. And the first game, I thought we showed drive and quality. That's a weird thing. And then the second game, we didn't show any drive. And the third game, we didn't show any quality. The thing is, the first game, Hill started, so as centre back, so I think that helped in that. And it showed that maybe a few players had a bit more of an opportunity than maybe we thought, like Traore. I say I would put him as sell, stuff like that. With Lewis Cook, obviously can't play the first few games, and possible injury still with Chrissy and stuff like that, Traore for me may be able to squeeze into a starting place, which I would never have expected at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, it's good, bad points, but yeah, they certainly didn't help with the confidence, though. I know that.
No, and going back to that Everton game, I was quite impressed with us that game. To be honest, we could have beaten them more if we had taken more of our chances. I know that sounds crazy considering we've only got 3 points from this tournament. But Everton, whilst they weren't particularly very good, we just outshone them. We controlled the games, we managed it well. That's the sort of Bournemouth performance that we're used to, and that's the sort of Bournemouth performance that had us quite excited. The substitutions were spot on. I did, I was very, very impressed with Ilia when he come on. I know that his goal was a bit of a tap in and a bit of a mistake at the back for Everton, but you have to be in those positions. You have to be aware to that to actually, capitalise. But I thought he was very, very impressive. And James Hill, one player that you've mentioned there, I think needs to really get the nod next season, get given his chance, because he's shown what an outstanding player he is. I'm just going to quickly run through these comments and then we'll just jump back into, just hold that thought for a moment. Nick Gillins has got it right. It's just another day, Monday. Whoa. Isn't I can't remember the next people. It's so long ago.
You can get on Extra Factor, you'll be all right.
Yeah, I take Extra Factor. Do they still do that? Actually, yeah, that might be the only time I win X Factor, because at the end of the day, let's be fair, nobody enters it anymore. Yeah, Simon Cowell, I'm here if you need me. I'm here all week. Do come get me. There we are. From up the cherries in all departments to X Factor sensation. There we are. Morning, chap, says Ollie. Hope you're doing well, Ollie. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Unashamed. I'm guessing you're saying shame that we didn't get to see Pollson play. Yeah, that was disappointing. You'll like this one, Sean. Dango was the best player overall. Traore, close seconds.
Yeah, I say the only one I would add in there is Hill, but yeah, Traore, Dango for me, yeah, probably best players.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, Sean. I don't know.
Oh, and
There's a player that I want to
Trafford.
throw into. I want to throw a player into it, and it's not Semenyo. Don't worry, it's not Semenyo. Ray Ticket said yesterday's game positives. Brooksy looked great. Also, Traore, no Pollson in goal. So yeah, Paul from Oz said that as well. Yeah, let's go on to this goalkeeping situation, because Neto, of course, started yesterday's game. Jordi Petrovic come on off the bench. Do you feel that Iriola is maybe having to make him back up because of how much money he's on, that we can't shift him, that we have to we feel obliged to play a goalkeeper who, let's be fair, is overpaid for what he's really doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, with his wages and stuff, PSR and all that, without knowing a bit more in depth in the club and that, can't really say for certain. But you can only do by what's actually been played. And Pollson, I don't think he's played any minutes during this summer series. Just been on the bench. So I'm going back to what I originally. The only difference is I thought Will Dennis might be the one that would go higher on loan and that, but I think Will Dennis might be kept around and Pollson be sent on loan, and Neto being second choice. So Dennis being third, Pollson being fourth, essentially. But I say I would have loved Pollson to be second, but yeah, looking at this games, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
It's a real shame, because he's a quality goalkeeper. Now, the thing is, it's the A League, and I know this for a matter of fact. The quality of the A League is not particularly very good. And he's come from Wellington Phoenix. He's come over here, signed for us, and then he's gone straight on loan to Auckland City, of course, a club within and he's won the league with them. I went to see Lion City Sailors against Sydney FC when I was over in Singapore. And as much as the Singaporean side played very, very well, they were quite impressive actually, how they were pinging the ball across. They were very well organised. Sydney FC, in all honesty, we sat with the Sydney fans, were poor. They were very, very, very poor, and very, very disappointing. So, in all honesty, the A League, considering Sydney FC are one of the best teams in that league, it's disappointing. It's disappointing as a division. I thought it was a little bit better than that. It seems to be a place where a lot of players end their careers in Australia. And yeah, I thought it was a better division than that. However, I think we got to give him a chance, and this was an ample opportunity to give him a chance. Let's go on to that Manchester United game because, of course, for everything we did well against Everton, everything against Manchester United was pants, to be perfectly honest, wasn't it?
Yeah, as I say, the biggest thing was drive. We just didn't seem to have any energy. We were second to the ball all the time, and that. Say that was the biggest difference. There, you see cup upsets and stuff like that all the time, and the difference is, even if you don't have the quality, you have the drive, and that can sometimes get you over the line. And we just didn't have any drive in it. The only players that stood out, well, say maybe biased, but Dango was the only player that properly stood out. Hill played okay, but say standing out. I don't know if you felt any other player stood out beside Dango.
No, to be honest, Dango seemed, and I see where we're going from there because Dango was consistent throughout this tournament. He really was consistent throughout the tournament. So yeah, I can see why people were saying that he was probably player of the tournament for AFC Bournemouth.
Yeah, I'd say Dango and maybe Traore.
Yeah,
Was the only
Traore very
consistent
good.
players really.
Yeah, Traore was very, very good. And I was, I just didn't understand the Manchester United lineup. Not Manchester United's lineup, but our lineup for that game. Philip Billing as captain.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
It was weird. I think it was a reward for him coming back into the fray, scoring that excellent goal. And maybe, just maybe, Andoni Iraola's thought, well, I need to give him a little bit of confidence. Let's give him the armband. And he seemed proud as punch, to be fair, coming out, and yeah, it just didn't work. For somebody who is quite a quiet man, a pleasant man, but a very quiet man, he's not captain material for me. Never in a million years is Philip Billing captain material. It's like, as much as we throw the plaudits on Dango and Semenyo, I don't think they're captains. Whereas Lewis Cook, very, very well organised. Smithy, well organised. These players, Ryan Christie, captain all day long. He's organised. He knows what to do. I think Traore would be a good captain, but there's certain players that just don't feel fit that role. David Brooks, I don't think David Brooks effectively for me is a captain. Because I don't think he's got that. I don't think he's got that air about him. I don't think he's got that presence. And Philip Billing is probably as far from captain as I'd put. But hey, Andoni's given him a chance. It hasn't worked out. But to be honest, nothing worked out that game, and we were just very, very, very poor, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is both defensively and attacking, we've got worrying signs. Yeah, Hill was starting on the first game, which is a good sign, but obviously the second game and then third game, Senesi starting us back, we look very weak at the back, and that's only one injury away from being in that situation, let alone there was a couple of injuries. And then at the front, the biggest issue, one of the issues we had last season was not converting our chances. I mean, in our show, we done about Semenyo not converting chances, but to be fair, the whole team, lots of times we was having lots of shots. The whole team was, and we weren't converting. And especially against West Ham, that was the case. I think I can't remember what the end statistic was, but I know at one point we was 11 shots and one on target or something like that.
And this is a problem. And this will lead on to something quite nicely as well, is because going forwards, we just had no teeth. Evan Nielsen, I think, has kind of lacked, the ability to find that little bit of space and find that little bit of quality to get it in the back of the net. I think he needs that. We have to persist with Evan Nielsen. There's no point in taking him out the squad because we don't want to knock his confidence because he is still an absolute quality forward. However, it's harking back to the start of last season when he was struggling to get the ball in the back of the net. That's a little bit of a worry for me. But I just want to bring up this comment as well from Paul from Oz. Neto looked indecisive in West Ham's first goal. Just an opinion. Pollson probably going on loan. A-League, probably Division 1 standard. Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Like League 1 in England.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, based on what I saw, in Singapore, I hate to say it, Paul, but I think it might even be a little bit less than that. I think it might be a little bit less than that. It just seemed, the Singaporean side were very well drilled, but it just seems like that a lot of players go there to end their careers. And, it just doesn't. There just doesn't seem to be that flow to the game, which the Singaporean side had, for Sydney FC. Now, I'm not speaking for every team, but there's a lot of quality players out in Australia. But what happens when a player is quality and is spotted out in Australia? They get picked up by an English club, and that's why of course, Manchester City and ourselves have got footholds, and no doubt there's other teams who've got footholds in Australia to pick out the best quality players, which leaves the A-League a little bit with the also Rams. Of course, Australia isn't really a footballing nation. It's more rugby and it's more cricket. But at the same time, there's a lot of quality over in Australia. But they will get picked up by the English teams. I think Pollson really needs to go on loan to the Championship to test him. I honestly do. Would you agree with that? If we're not going to play Pollson this year, don't send him on loan to the A-League. Don't send him on loan to a League 1 club. Be it whoever, Bolton, Stockport, whoever. Send him on loan to a Championship side, where he's going to get tested, and that step up isn't going to be as big.
Yeah, I'd like him to go obviously as high as possible, but same reason I put Neto as second choice was because of financial and different reasons like that. With Pollson, because of the level he was at the Australian League and that, I put him loaning out to League 1. So I would love him to go to Championship level, but I just don't see any Championship clubs willing to take on an Australian player. So that's why I put him down to League 1 as being loaned out to.
Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, interesting one here from Dan Short. He said short loan to Ipswich or something like that. No, to be honest, I'd want him to go to a lower team in the Championship, a team that is going to probably struggle a little bit more. Maybe in Oxford United or someone like that, where he's going to be properly tested. He's going to concede goals, but he's going to be properly tested. At his distribution, his speed, of how he comes out to the ball, his catching. That's what we want. We don't want him to go to Ipswich, who I think are personally going to storm that division when it gets going. What did Metham look like since he's been back? To be honest, I don't think he really had enough time, did he, to make a
No,
real impression, which, yeah.
certainly didn't stand out for his too few minutes.
Paul from Oz said, I would agree, Craig, maybe between both divisions. Yeah. No disrespect to the A-League, but, I think, the division needs to, move on up. But yeah, I'm sure it'll get there. Paul Santa said Craig Johnson and Grobbler would probably be the best two from A-League and Viduka. Yeah, going back some time there with Grobbler. And Badger and Bournemouth fan, a bit more worried about the defence than our attacking for me. Yes, we did hit. We had those 11 shots or something. We did, hit the woodwork quite a bit. But let's talk about that defence. And of course, Neto, I agree with Paul from Oz there. He just did seem a bit shaky, seemed indecisive. Like he didn't want to come for the ball. I think, he's not been working with Neil Moss for a while now. He's come back into the fold. His time at Arsenal was a bit of a non-entity, in my honest opinion. It's a bit of a strange one, to be fair, because we knew that he wasn't going to get the game time at Arsenal. But let's talk about Marco Senesi, because I think for both goals, sadly, I think he was at fault for both. And talking about the first goal, the crosses come in, and you made a very, very, very good point that, we shouldn't have let the cross come in. However, Traore tried to make the angles smaller for the player, and I think, Bowen did a very good job of getting him around him. But who was picking up Fulkrug? Now, you could say Zabarnyi was responsible for that, but why were they both on the line? And I know you made quite a similar comment, didn't you, last night, from memory? Both of them were on that line. What was Senesi doing? Senesi was pretty much ineffective for that, whilst Zabarnyi did try and make a, move. Do you think he's lost his edge, considering, he was, to be fair, would Howson have got his chance if it wasn't for Senesi's injury? Of course, as soon as Howson got playing, Senesi couldn't get back in.
Even when he came back from the end of last season, had a few games and that, he just didn't seem to be the same kind of player. He seemed to be making a lot more mistakes, stuff like that. And as for the West Ham goals and that, the first goal, I know it's probably most fans don't agree with, but I wouldn't say that he was at fault so much for the first goal. The second goal, definitely. He wasn't near his man, and that should have done a lot more. But then I say Neto should have really come out, especially on the second goal. But the first goal, I saw Zabs and Senesi both go to the line. Zabs seemed to come out. So that suggests that Zabs was the one that should have stayed with his man. So Senesi was doing... There's always one person that goes on the line. So Senesi was doing what he was meant to be doing. So the first goal, I wouldn't so much put Senesi at fault for that, because he seemed to be doing what the pattern seemed to show.
Yeah, no, good point. Very, very good point, actually, with Zabarnyi. And, I guess that will lead quite nicely into, more conversation about that in just a moment. But summer series, could we look back at this at the end of the season after a good season, which hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be, but could we look back at this and say, well, actually, this was a success because it's shown us where our failings was, it's put us up against top quality opposition, it's been a bit of a challenge? Or would we have rather had a day out to Wrexham, a visit to Reading, a trip down the M27 to Southampton. Would we rather have had those sort of games rather than playing Everton, Man United, and West Ham? Something with a lower league team. Where do you think? Do you think there's more benefit in playing these bigger teams, or do you think we should have played the lower league teams?
I mean, the important thing with pre-season is to show if there is weaknesses, so you've got time to adjust them. And I think, yeah, you say with the confidence, stuff like that, but all it takes is a game, and then the confidence can switch around. But I think this games we saw bits that maybe we didn't think was an issue. I mean, defense, I did want another defender in, but I wasn't so much worried. I thought with Hill, Snessie, and that, I thought certainly to start off with, the cover is fine in that. The attacking, I wasn't so worried about. But with the attacking, we saw obviously not taking chances, something that we had issues with last season. So maybe the attack is a bit more worrying, even though we've got a lot of options, than I thought. And then the midfield, obviously Traore was a shining light in that, we wasn't expecting. So it's revealed stuff that maybe, I don't know if you've seen stuff that you was worried about before or wasn't worried about before, and then you switched around. What's your view on that?
To be honest, beforehand, I was always thinking, Dean Howson's going to be big boots to fill, but I thought Senesi was able to fill them. Now it's more James Hill. Can he fill them? And I think James Hill is probably the player I'd play next to Zabarnyi. However, of course, we know what's going on with Zabarnyi. Midfield-wise, I think we're absolutely fine. I'm confident with that. Hamid Traore has shone out to me and as being some player that might have come back from, the outskirts of the team to somebody who could be quite important, and somebody who maybe those loan moves have actually really benefited, because I saw him as a luxury player, but a lot of what he did was very good. One thing I didn't understand actually was that Hamid Traore, everything he did was really, really good, but he got himself in the box a lot of the time. And this is nothing against Hamid Traore, because he can't really do much about this. But putting your smallest player, or if Hamid Traore, has chose to go into that position himself, positioning yourself right in the centre of the box, thinking, well, the ball might come across and I might be able to get my head on this. He's probably, it's against the laws of physics, to be perfectly honest. If you're, I don't know how tall Hamid Traore is, but if you're small, you're always going to be small. And, your likelihood against getting up for a header against some of West Ham's defenders, who are pretty big, is going to be quite limited. So, didn't really understand that. But I think Evan Nilsson will come good. I think, defensively, there's a lot of concerns, which we'll come to in a second. But overall, I think I think we might look back on this tournament and go, well, we actually found out more about our side from playing these teams that we will play on a regular basis in the Premier League, than we did, go into Southampton on a Friday night just for a little kickabout, pre-season with our lowly neighbours. Sorry, Saints.
I don't want too easy of a game.
Yeah, well, exactly. Hey, I tell you what, Andoni, if the players are lacking confidence, after that Real Sociedad game, just get on the phone to, is it Will Still? He plays a bit of Football Manager. Isn't that how we become, I need to read this story, because I'm sure it's got something to do with Football Manager. He's become an expert playing Football Manager on PC, and it's ended up as a football manager, quite literally. There's hope for us all. There's hope for us all, guys. But all we need to do is get on the phone to him, set up a friendly, and the confidence will be soon floating back after we batter them. Just going to go through the other comments, and then we'll move on to the next point. So Smithy was not with Neto, not telling him he had time on the cross, and he played it out safe for a corner. Could just see the disconnection from Neto. Yeah, actually, very, very good point. Very good point. Paul from Ulster said, yeah, and he's noticed that as well. Yeah, haven't mentioned that, but that's a very, very good point. That Neto just wasn't there, was he really?
Yeah, the biggest problem with Neto has always been that he's just not commanding enough in the box, and certainly during this pre-season, I didn't see any improvement on his commanding. So,
100%. Paul Sant said Smith defensively is not good enough anymore at this level. Good going forwards. Hill for me should be right back. Oh, that's a difficult one. That's a difficult one.
yeah,
Paul.
I was going to say, yeah, I have said that Smith did let those 2 crosses in, but to
Yeah.
be fair, even the best defensive in the world, if you've got an attacker coming at you and determined to do a cross, there's not too much. If it's 1-on-1, which he was both times, there's not many right backs that could stop a cross anyway. So,
bringing up back a comment I made a little while back, against Brighton a couple of seasons ago, Smithy was getting and this was under Gary O'Neill, he was getting very, very close to Mitoma, the Brighton forwards. And Mitoma kept turning him. Smithy had to adapt his game. He's lost that yard of pace. He's lost that speed that he had in abundance. And I think he's done all right. I think he's done all right. Since he's backed off a little bit more, he's made it more difficult for defenders to get past him. He's given himself a little bit more time to actually make that decision. But yeah, I think Smithy is my right back. I don't rate Arejo at the moment. I just think his naivety, his pace is all there, but defensively he's questionable, which, for a right back, you don't want. If you want the ball going forwards, he'll be a great player against a team, who are struggling in the league. Say, for example, Burnley. Burnley going to play very, very defensive this season. Let's be honest, they're a Scott Parker team. Arejo, running at pace down that right-hand side, he's going to frighten them, and he's going to have a lot of success against a team like Burnley. So that's where I'm going with that. I honestly think that that's where he fits in. Smithy all day long for right back for me. And have we got anybody else who can play left back if Traore gets injured? Yeah, Julio Sola, very, very, very good left back as well.
yeah, I thought he done fairly well when he came on and that. So, yeah, I'm happy with the left back. It's just the right back is a bit of an issue. Obviously, I forgot names now.
Arejo, Julian Arejo.
Yeah, he flashed hot and cold. He did have some moments of good and some moments of bad. I mean, was it the Manchester United goal? He just didn't react quick enough for the quick free kick, so it shows his naivety. But then the West Ham, when he came on and that, he had a few, especially going forward, had a few good little shows.
He did really at one point when we was attacking. He's in a really advanced position. He took the ball, took it round the West Ham man, and put in a fantastic cross, actually. And maybe that's what he's all about. But I tell you what, let's move on before we run out of time to the next point. And of course, defensive frailties might get worse because Illia Zabarnyi is being linked to not just PSG this morning, but also the Watch Tappers team. Thomas Frank is supposedly back in the race for Illia Zabarnyi, and this is coming from a website called Caught Offside. The rumoured figure that has been agreed between Spurs and AFC Bournemouth, is 70 million euros. So I think that works out as about 66 million pounds. I'm guessing. If you're Illia Zabarnyi, where do you go? Do you go to PSG, where the French league is not of the standard of the Premier League, but to what you say is the European champions, or would you go to Tottenham Hotspur, a team that, let's be honest, have just won their first trophy in God knows how long?
I don't know. Does he have any French connections or stuff like that?
Not really.
Well, you're certainly going to have a lot more chance of Champions League and stuff like that there. So, as a player, you can't blame him if he wants to go there, that kind of thing. Obviously, for us, it makes it very awkward because the amount as well. We can't just completely dismiss the amount. It's not exactly a few pennies. It goes down to ambition. It goes down to the player himself, what he wants to do. I think it's gone on too long for him to leave. But the issue is that can you just turn away 66 million and that so easily? And as long as we stay in the league, would you say it's a good season still? And do you think we actually will be able to stay in the league if we did have Hill and Snessi as our defence?
I think we could stay in the league, but I think we need to really kick on. Malcolm's good morning, Malcolm. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I said good morning, everybody, but I just want to jump to this. Caught offside, you can throw in the garbage. There we are. Malcolm's not a fan of this website. So, yeah. Good. Caught offside, yeah. Maybe not the source that, everybody will look to, but yeah, that's the rumour that is on there. Thought we'd bring it up, but yeah. Yeah. Hopefully Malcolm's right, that is all garbage, and hopefully the PSG move doesn't happen as either. The good thing is I think, if he was going to go this summer, why would we play him in the summer series to get him ready for next season? It doesn't make any sense to get a player who's going to PSG ready, unless we say it's his swan song. But I don't. Well, why would we do that when we've got James Hill and you play Hill and Senesi? I'm confident that Hill will come good. Senesi, I'm worried about at the moment. But Paul Sanders said good morning to Malcolm. How is Smithy going to handle Kirkes and Dango? Also, left back cover. I think
that's why I said the biggest worry for I don't know when we do the Liverpool preview is the Kirkes and Smithy or Julian, whichever one's going to be against each other. And they're going to take advantage of that.
100%. Dan Short said he reckons it'd probably be PSG over Spurs. Yeah, let's be fair. Selling for 70 million to PSG and 90 million to Spurs. I cannot stand Frank. Neither can I, Paul. Neither can I. What's the incoming rumour? All in good time, Dan. All in good time. And Malcolm makes a very good point here. Transfer window runs until 1st of September. No rush to get deals done. I think it's more, we want to be just ready for that first game of the season. But I tell you what, let's just jump onto this rumour as well that is coming through. And this is with regards to a Serie A midfielder called Michael Adopo. And we are supposedly in competition with Burnley for this player. Supposedly contact has been made, and of course he knows Adrian Traore very, very well, according to the article here. But Adopo, do you know much about him? Plays for an Italian team.
No idea on that, but I think we don't really need any midfielder. So Just going by that, I'll be surprised if defense is the biggest issue. Unless he can do multiple positions. I know Andoni does like players that can do multiple positions.
I'm just having a quick look why Traore might know of him, but it all stems from the French national team or the French youngsters. So yeah, he's a midfielder. I can't see a reason for having another midfielder in the squad. Considering that's a real strength. Also, he was recently made a permanent transfer for Cagliari, so is he going to be a loan deal? I don't see it. I don't see it. It was at Atalanta, but I I don't see this. I don't know where this has come from. It's a very, very weird one, considering he's recently signed a new contract. Is it potentially Cagliari wanting to? I think that's how you say it. Wanted to spin this player quickly, because we've seen that. We saw that with Benicaphobe, didn't we? When was it? He went to Wolves and then went to Stoke, or Stoke to Wolves, or something. It was for
Yeah,
something really, really, really weird, where he spent literally a day, and it was basically a team looking to spit. Maybe it's a similar sort of situation with a Dopo. Who knows? Who knows? It's a
yeah,
wonderful world of
yeah,
transfers.
yeah. I remember that. I can't remember exactly why it happened now, but yeah, it was weird.
It was bizarre, wasn't it? Really, really bizarre. Pollson has said maybe Cook's injury is worse than first thought. Yeah, very, very possible. And it's a Dopo. Does look like he does play in that position, actually. So maybe it's that we're going to give them a loan fee, which might, offset what Cagliari has paid from for him from to Atalanta. I'll get my words straight in a minute. Maybe we're going to pay a loan fee that's going to offset what they've paid Atalanta for his services, or maybe they're going to look to spin him. I don't know the finances around that one, but yeah, very, very strange rumor. No transfer figure given either, but last but not least, let's just quickly go on to a comment that was put on YouTube, and the comment that Matt was referring to earlier on. And a big, big thank you to the West Ham United fan that posted this. So, Fly Fox Pro, you will be able to see this comment for yourself on the Premier League Summer Series of Watch Along between ourselves and West Ham. So, he's put West Ham fan here. Just to be honest, there are not that many fans who wanted Callum Wilson at our club. He's been very vocally negative about our club for many years, and his penchant for scoring against us. Add to those facts that he has had severe injuries that have limited him in recent years, and his agent is known and loathed commodity at West Ham, and it makes for a fan base who do not want him anywhere near our club. We have a terrible track record of buying injury-prone strikers that dates back a decade, and this is just another in a long line of aggravation for us. All that being said, our ownership is to blame and not Wilson's fault. I think his options to stay in the Premier League were very limited, and he is chasing the 100 goal mark. Perhaps he'll do well for us. Most fans are not pleased. Some have said they'll back him regardless, and I think others will boo him. That being said, if he becomes a super sub and bangs in some goals, I think most fans will give him a break. Cheers. Very, very good comment.
Yeah, very good.
Hmm.
I think Wilson can do a job. He certainly can, and if he can avoid the injuries, but that's the big thing with Wilson. Um, if he stayed injury free and played all the games, I still can see him doing 15 goals in the season. But him being injury free, that's another matter. So it's either a bargain or a waste of money. But
Hmm.
you don't know. So if they're willing to take that risk, then good on them, and hope he does well. But yeah, not a risk we could take, certainly.
Callum always scored against them. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. His track record, and I didn't. He seemed to have an active dislike of West Ham as well. Um, you know, Paul Sant said only a year contract. Maybe we should give Dominic Calvert-Lewin the same. I'll be honest, I don't want Dominic Calvert-Lewin anywhere near this football club. However, Callum Wilson, I would have welcomed back with open arms. And even with his injury record, even though, he has taken some real knocks throughout his career, I think he could still done a job off the bench. Now, I might be being sentimental, but who would you rather, Sean? Would you rather Enisu now coming off the bench? I hate to use a current player, or Callum Wilson. I think Callum Wilson can change a game, for that last 25 minutes.
If they're both fit, then Callum Wilson. I still think for consistency, I think I've got more faith in Unai.
Mhm.
But I say if we knew they was both going to be fit in that, yeah, Wilson would be there.
Yeah. Dominic Calvert-Lewin?
I don't know. We do need to sort out what's up front. I mean, my ideal thing would be Dango up front, to be honest. But we're not going to drop Evan Nilsson. Whether Evan Nilsson could be behind Dango, I don't know. But even last night, I said it was a bit strange to me that he played Semenyo more up top and then kept Dango more on the wings. So again, Andoni seems to want to put Semenyo more up front, which was a bit confusing to me. But yeah, you spend, 30, 40 million on Evan Nilsson, you've got to persevere with him regardless. So yeah, just need to find a way of taking the chances, and hopefully other team members can help him to do the same as well.
Well, I think Evan Nilsson will be, he's a quality striker, but for a backup, I would have quite liked Callum back. But Nick
Ever
Gillin said,
certainly did have some quality chances to take, though. That's where it was very one. The quality, the crosses certainly was there, and he should have taken them. They're guilty for that.
Nick Gillins has said, I don't remember him saying anything bad about West Ham, or did I miss that? I think it was, I, I remember him coming off the pitch, when we beat them in our first ever Premier League win, and being, he was over the moon, of course, and I think maybe irked West Ham fans, and of course he's just scored against them ever since, and I think because he was so what's the word? It's not. It's a bit of confidence, really, but it was a little bit bullshit. It was a bit like, yeah, this was easy. There's lots more to come. Because he was like that, I think West Ham fans just took it the wrong way. I don't think he said anything in particular, but yeah. I'm sure West Ham fans are warm to him when he starts scoring goals for them.
Yeah, I mean, you
Darren,
can blame him because his first goal was against them, and wasn't it his first hat trick though as well?
yes, yep,
So you can't blame any player to be a bit over the top with that.
Exactly. They just don't like him because he just scored against them. But all this talk of Wilson, you might as well talk Josh King. No, we won't go there. We won't go there. He might go back to Watford, Josh King, but I don't think he's done much since. I love Callum. I'd have him back here for sure. Nick Gillen said yes, most definitely. And finally, just to end on, no to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, I there's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with that player. When he played for Everton, I just don't get him. I just don't get Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's a weird player. So no. But there we are. I think that's all we have time for. Sean, pleasure as always. And we'll see you back here on Wednesday. And of course, you'll be alongside Ollie Hudson.
Yep. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. And yeah, thank you everybody for who's tuned in. If you're new, please hit the likes, the subscribe, and the bell button. I will get my words straight, down below. If you're watching on Instagram, please also do go over to the YouTube channel. Danny, Josh, Lee, Ken, Tommy, JSC Dorset and Boscombe St John's lads, please do come over to the YouTube channel. Then you can get involved in the conversation. You're more than welcome, and it'll be a pleasure to have you. And Paul Santa said, thanks, lads. Thank you for tuning in, Paul. And if you are listening on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all those sources afterwards, again, please do come over to the YouTube channel as well, where you can get involved in the conversation. And thank you so much, Paul, from Oz as well. So until the next one, up the cherries. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week. Have a great Monday, and we'll see you very soon.
Up the cherries.
Up the cherries.
TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.